My name is Cathy Moore and I'm an archaeologist and a wooden artefact specialist. At Drumclay I was there as the on-site wood specialist and wooden artefact specialist, so really I oversaw the excavation and the lifting and the management and the sampling of all the wood. Drumclay was a sight of a lifetime. It was absolutely phenomenal in terms of the waterlogged wood assemblage. Over 1,000 objects were found, and they ranged from kind of turned bowls and plates and cups to troughs and spoons, so kind of domestic tableware, the things that people used in their everyday life for eating and preparing food, and also bigger things like dugout canoes, and we found some paddles. They date probably from around the 6th or 7th century AD right up to about the 16th century, and they tell us so much about everyday life, about the types of things people used, especially about domestic life. And a lot of these objects would have belonged to women, because women at the time would have very much been involved in food production. So that's interesting, because a lot of the time you don't necessarily see women so much or so clearly in the archaeological records. One of the most interesting things we found was a wooden cheese dish. And it's unusual for lots of reasons, but primarily it doesn't have any parallels in Ireland. So it's a shallow, very shallow kind of round dish, and in the bottom there are 12 holes, and also in the centre of the base is a Latin cross has been inscribed into it. And this would have been for making cheese, where the curds would have been put into the dish and then weighted down, and all the whey would have dripped out of the holes in the bottom. And you see cheese dishes like this across the continent, even being used still today in traditional cheese making, but there are no parallels for this in Ireland from that particular time period. So that's really quite an interesting and unusual find. Dairying was really important in the early medieval period. Dairy would have made a vast majority of the diet, particularly in the summertime. And there's a lot of superstitions involved in dairying, all sorts of things about churning butter and making cheese and what you do and what you don't do. And the carving of a cross into the cheese dish was probably kind of the Christianization of those superstitions. So the change from kind of the old superstitions into a new kind of way of belief. It was a once in a lifetime, it really was. Crannogs are phenomenal sites. They're phenomenal repositories of amazing waterlogged material. Everything is preserved there. You know, all the things they used and where they slept and what they ate and what their houses were built of. It's something you really don't see as an archaeologist. It's kind of once in a generation thing. So it was a privilege. It was an absolute privilege to see this.